What was your revenue at before we actually signed up with it?
Average was 15, I believe.
And then now, let's just say 6 days later, now we're launched and running post-workshop. What are you at now?
27.
27. That's awesome. What was your 90-day goal?
My 90-day goal was to have a 50K month.
Welcome back to AR Podcast. My name is Mike Crowson, the CEO and co-founder of AR Funnel. And today I have Miss Kendall, who not only is a high-level functional health practitioner, but at the same time also a pro as well in the sport of bodybuilding. So very unique combination, but at the same time gives her so much credibility to what she can actually do, which also leads to the success which she has for her clients because she gets to see so many different types of cases and unique situations. So Kendall, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today.
Of course. I'm excited to be here.
So with that being said, we've got the IFBB Pro side of Miss Kendall. Then we have the functional health side of Miss Kendall. Which one do you lay identity more towards?
Oh gosh. Probably functional health. But then again, like my background is in sport performance and that whole side of thing in sports. And so that's my background. That's what I grew up doing, playing sports, being competitive, but then always kind of having this desire to be in the medical field, doing something regarding health, being in healthcare. And so I went to get my nursing license, and it's not what I thought it was going to be, Western medicine. And so that's how I kind of found myself into more of the functional, holistic side of healthcare and healing, really.
And so I know that you have both bodybuilding clients or competitors and also functional health clients, whether it be gut issues or we'll get into the extremes of what you actually focus on there.
Yeah.
But as of right now, like today, I know it slides back and forth depending on the week, but today, what's your favorite client?
Today, I don't know. That's tough. And I think that's why I haven't necessarily gone 100% one way or the other. It's because I love doing both, and it also helps break it up. There's a lot that goes into functional medicine, and it's very time consuming because there's a lot of details that go in. There's a lot of testing, a lot of writing protocols. With competitors, it's very black and white. When it comes to competitors, there's a level of expectation that you have to meet, and there's really no gray area, right? It's you either did your protocol or you didn't. You either check those boxes or you didn't. And that is kind of my mindset. That's how I grew up. I was competitive. It was a yes or no. It was, did you do it? Did you not do it? And so obviously functional clients are more challenging because there's less of that black and white. There's a lot of gray area. And so I feel like every day is different, especially with functional clients, because it's so mentally taxing and requires a lot of mental energy. Some days I wake up and I'm like, my brain is not firing on all cylinders. The competitors are what I look forward to that day, because I'm okay, it's either yes or no, you did it or you didn't, move on. And then with functional, it's all right, I got to sit down and actually work through some of these things. So it's really dependent on the day, honestly.
Right, which is funny. That's why I led with it. I was like, today, which one is it? Because I understand a passion versus fulfillment, because I assume that the fulfillment of fixing somebody that is going through some hardships from a gut, thyroid, whatever it may be, is more rewarding because we're actually generally helping somebody leave pain versus a competitor achieving a goal, which is great and all, but it's not the same as getting somebody pain-free or symptom-free.
Yeah.
So that's why I led with that, because it's such a unique situation to be able to essentially handle and deal with both. But it's also two different sides of the coin. And it's who are we feeling today? Are we feeling like a doctor today? Or are we feeling like a competitor today?
Yeah.
And so in the world of functional health, what are the main types of cases that you work with?
Gut issues are a big one. Gut issues, hormone imbalances. I actually have a plethora of postmenopausal or post-surgical menopause women who are struggling in their bodies. They've either experienced lots of hormone fluctuations, weight gain when they've previously been fit and healthy prior to either surgical or menopause induced by age and things like that. And I see a lot of those types of clients, gut issues, like I said, people who are having issues post birth control. It's very common, and some autoimmune issues as well in there. Yeah.
Let's just dive into that one. Birth control, hot topic. Does somebody need to be taking birth control? And if so, why?
If you're using it for abstinence and you truly cannot contain yourself and have self-control or practice, whatever, there's a whole rabbit hole that we can go down. But for the majority of people, when someone is having, a lot of times the reason for going on birth control is driven by pain, is driven by really harsh periods, really heavy periods where they just want some sort of relief, right? And that's the first thing that is offered to them when they go into their doctor is, this will help with your symptoms. Okay, great. But that doesn't necessarily get rid of the issue or solve the issue at hand, because a lot of times it is rooted in either gut health or inflammation or, detox pathways or the metabolism of these hormones that aren't properly being executed. And it's, at the time, you don't know. Like, you don't know what's driving those symptoms. You just are more so focused on resolving those symptoms and, getting out of pain and, clearing up your acne or what have you. And what the doctors often fail to even inform the patient or even know themselves is the long-term repercussions of being on birth control, whether that's fertility, whether that's, you're masking an issue. So those issues often, represent themselves after you come off. And, we see things with autoimmune, with thyroid, that are negatively a result of birth control, especially for long periods of time.
So what you're saying is that let's say like a heavy cramping inside a menstrual cycle, leaving tons of discomfort, go to the doctor, they provide a birth control as a solution and or Band-Aid. You're saying there are other underlying symptoms that are actually making that happen, correct?
Yes.
What are some typical symptoms or things that are going on causing to have those really heavy periods?
Like I said, methylation and just how your hormones are being metabolized contribute. There's also things within your gut. If you've got a lot of dysbiosis, a lot of inflammation, there's more opportunity for estrogen to be reabsorbed into the system. And that's typically what causes the harsh, PMS symptoms, heavy periods, heavy bleeding, clotting, mood swings, is the ratio between estrogen and progesterone. And that's a lot of times practitioners in Western medicine typically don't test for those values specifically when we would want to see them during a menstrual cycle to evaluate what that imbalance or how drastic that imbalance is. But then also they don't have an idea of how all of these other different things within your body that are off could be contributing to, or it could be promoting an environment in which those imbalances kind of take hold.
So to the woman that's having the extreme PMS symptoms, what is your advice to her before just going and getting on birth control?
I'd make sure that, I want to take a look at her digestion. I'd want to, there's more functional tests that you can do to evaluate your metabolism of your hormones, but I'd want to have her get her labs done. It can literally just be an estrogen progesterone during days 19 to 21 of your cycle. Obviously, we would like to see a full sex hormone panel, and the reason why this is if someone has a normal 28 to 32 day cycle, or let's say, or typically like 5-ish days after ovulation, if someone is like very in tune with their cycle and they know exactly what day they ovulate. But other people, they don't know. So we kind of check, or we want to, aim for that time frame of when we would anticipate progesterone to be at its peak during the luteal phase, and to where we can, and it allows us to evaluate what that imbalance is and how big that imbalance is. But and then obviously, fast forward, say we do find that there are, you're living in a very estrogen dominant environment within your body. There are things that will help either and this is like another rabbit hole that I can go down, but there's relative estrogen dominance and then frank estrogen dominance. Typically, especially if someone's been on birth control, typically it's a matter of low progesterone. So there are things that someone can incorporate, whether that's supplementation wise, whether that's, utilizing nutrition, functional nutrition, or even just focusing on stress management. Because what happens is your body fights for cortisol and it fights for progesterone. So if your body's demanding more cortisol, if we're in this fight or flight state, it's going to steal that from progesterone. So that's another overlooked thing too, is that, if we're chronically stressed, then that's kind of preventing ovulation, preventing progesterone from being sufficient. But yeah, hormones is it's a whole world. There's so many nuances and so many like different rabbit holes that you can go down. Western medicine doesn't.
So when it comes to gut health issues, specifically for women per se, what is the driving factor in your opinion on why there are so many issues with gut for just in general?
I think a lot of it is rooted in unmanaged stress. Unmanaged stress creates inflammation. A lot of us females are stressed out, and a lot of us deal with anxiety, and having a nervous system that's constantly in fight or flight doesn't allow for, like, you have your fight or flight nervous system, and you have your rest and digest nervous system, right? And if you're constantly in fight or flight over time, like, your threshold for what you feel from a stress standpoint is a lot higher than someone who's at, what a good baseline should be, a regulated nervous system. And so that can cause, disruptions in communication between the brain and the gut, then also just creating a very inflammatory environment within the gut that doesn't allow it to do what it's supposed to do.
So, interesting question here for you. So in a time of life that it is easier than ever, why are women stressing more now than ever? But maybe we're like this. What do most people come to and say that they're stressed about?
I think a lot of times finances is one, or they don't have the skills to be able to manage their stress. So like they haven't developed those healthy outlets for stress, for when they feel stress. And that's, thinking back to like even just like education, we were never taught how to manage our stress, right? Mm-hmm. It's mostly just like, ignore it, shove it down, try to forget about it, or, opt for unhealthy, coping mechanisms for stress.
Sure. Yeah. What's your biggest piece of advice for somebody to lower stress?
Stop trying to do so much. The answer is not always more. That's a lot of times what people like, even if someone's struggling in like their health and fitness journey or their weight loss journey, it's because they're doing too much, right? And they're not prioritizing balancing the stress and the non-stress. And so if someone comes to me and they're clearly that their body is showing signs of stress, but also like verbally they tell me like, I'm really stressed out, their stress is 7, 8, 9, 10, then I'm like, all right, we just need to do like a total reset. We need to pull back on our training. Oftentimes they're chronically under eating as well, and that doesn't help. And so kind of just reset the body, chill out, do some yoga, do some deep breathing, like spend time in prayer, journal, do puzzles, like as like silly as it sounds, to especially those people who are like, what? Like, I can't do that. Like, I can't get my brain to calm down. After, I'm like, no, this is what we're doing. Like, we got to do it. And then after the fact, they're like, oh, wow, like I can see, I can breathe.
With higher stress levels come higher cortisol, but what does that actually do to the gut itself that causes issues?
A number of different things. One, when you think about stress, you got to think about stress and cortisol. You got to think about inflammation, right? With an increase in cortisol, there's an increase in inflammation that happens. And when you think about the gut and how there's different components, right? There's, your microbiome, the different levels of bacteria, both good and bad. You've got your mucosal layer that lines your digestive system, which protects your everything that's going on in your digestive system. So all the toxins and the hormones and the byproducts and everything like that from your actual immune system. So and when your body is inflamed, that lining gets inflamed. And when that lining gets inflamed, create more, I don't want to get into like the sciencey stuff, but more holes, junctions become, more open. Think of them as like little channels, allowing for a lot of those waste products and those byproducts and hormones to be reabsorbed into the system. And then that goes and triggers an immune response. And then you have if you're in a very pro-inflammatory state, that allows for more harmful bacteria to take hold and colonize and create an imbalance between the opportunistic bacteria and the good bacteria. And then you also have the issues with stomach acid and digestive enzymes, right? If you're chronically stressed, your body's not going to produce sufficient amounts of those that you need to support healthy digestion. So that's typically when people get bloating and indigestion and food, they just feel like food is sitting there, and they get constipated and a whole host of issues.
So it seems like that obviously you can understand, everyone that's listening, why this becomes so mentally taxing, because it could be a million reasons on why XYZ is happening in somebody's body. And now our job is to go through this needle in a haystack and try to figure it out. What's been the most unique case that you've ever run across?
Parasites, yep. Which it's more common than you would think, but like on like just having to go through that process and having the client send me photos of their stool and like just like we get in the weeds there. But yeah, parasites are an interesting thing. And then mold too is, I mean, we live in moldy environment. Like mold spores are everywhere, and that's one of the things that I feel like is not talked about a lot. And it's very hard to detox your body from mold, especially if you are continuing to live in a moldy environment without knowing it.
How would one figure out whether they have mold inside their environment?
You say how? How would someone?
How would I know that I have mold inside my house?
You can do air quality testing. There's a number of them. Some of them aren't the best. And then really the slew of symptoms that come alongside of mold toxicity, headaches is a big one, like headaches for no reason, brain fog. A lot of neurological symptoms can come from being in a moldy environment or having mold within your system. Mood issues is another one that we see. Lots of anxiety, lots of just getting sick a lot, and also issues with digestion too. So it can be very, like, obviously there's so many different testing that you can do: stool, urine, plasma, blood. And so when someone comes and they have all of these symptoms, that it could be like so many different things. Yeah. It's hard to navigate, especially if you're doing it by yourself. But like there's different environmental testing that you can do at home, or you can have someone who is, professional come out and check.
Have you ever dealt with anything on the functional side personally?
Yeah, and that's kind of what led me into functional medicine, is that I was dealing with my own digestive health issues for years and years and years. And I was the one who was reliant on laxatives. Miralax is my best friend. And
it's not an eating disorder at all.
No. But yeah, I struggled with chronic constipation for years, and I just thought it was normal until like I actually started to understand after, being reliant on Miralax, like how, even though that was like not a good thing, like it would provide me with so much relief, not physically, but also mentally as well. And I'm like, there's something to this. So, after seeing a lot of GI doctors, and it was actually, the worst of it was when I was under a ton of stress in getting my master's in nursing, 6 years ago. And I went to a doctor and I posted, I made a reel about this, but I went to a doctor, he prescribed me Linzess, and I ended up having a disaster on multiple occasions in public. And it was just, I was like, I'm so done. Like, I know that there's more to this than just, being reliant on another medication. Like, it's no better than taking Miralax every single day. Like, and so that's kind of when I started doing my own research and doing the deep dive into the digestive system and everything that can impact it. And I basically was my own guinea pig. And that's how I really came to have a passion for functional medicine and really healing the body, figuring out what was causing these issues and helping other people do the same.
What was the first thing that you did to, let's like, self-prescribe to yourself?
Really focus on stress management. The patterns that I noticed were on mornings that I had clinicals and I had to be up really early. I wouldn't go. I was up at 5:30, out the door by 6, and wouldn't go. That would like set off a whole train of days where I wouldn't go. And then I realized on the days I didn't have clinicals or I didn't have class, and I was able to take time in the morning for myself and start off with a slow morning, that was really good for my nervous system. And your nervous system regulates a lot of that gut motility, obviously. And so that was a big game changer for me. And I even, after nursing school, when I was working as a nurse, I still had to get up early. I had to be in at my job. And so I worked there for a little bit knowing that was an issue. I can't not say that is what, for part of the, like maybe like 25% of the reason why I actually quit my job and started full-time coaching, because I was like, I want my mornings back.
It's pretty fascinating to me anytime I talk to a functional health coach or practitioner that it's just so much. And I understand like the issues that people have and how it's needle in a haystack to find those. And so more power to you as you continue to be out here and literally save lives. So kudos to you for doing that. I know you also moved recently from Tampa to Idaho. How's that going for you?
It's great. It's great. I've been so busy with work that I haven't actually had time to like get out and explore because I've been like gung-ho on my business, but it's great. Right now, it's very smoky. The air quality index is like 220 right now. It's the worst in the country because of all the fires and everything, but I love it. It's a lot slower pace. Not that, fast pace is bad by any means, but when you get caught up in like the hustle, like can't chill out, chasing money type of environment, like it's kind of toxic, or at least I found it really toxic.
Sure.
So yeah, it's great.
So what you're saying is that moving to Idaho is really good for your gut issues.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. How long have you been a part of AR now?
Since end of May, I think. Okay. Right? Yeah.
End of May, so we got June, July. So
yeah.
2 months? Surely it's been longer than 2 months.
No, because it was middle of May, and then I came to the
workshop at the end of May.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess you're right. Yeah.
And I wasn't even onboarded at that point.
Yeah, time flies. And so what was your biggest hesitation before signing up with AR? Because I know that we had been DMing back and forth, and it was kind of like a little bit slower pace. Like you knew people that we worked with. Like in your mind, what was the hesitation of like, sure, I'll get on a call?
Not knowing much about it, but also not knowing, based on where I was at in my business, what I really needed to focus on. And like, because there's ad, centered programs, there's system centered, there's automations, there's, different things. And I wasn't sure, right. Like I didn't know where to go, where I needed to start.
And so what made you just decide to, okay, I'll get on the call then?
The coaching company that I was working with at the time, they had gotten started with AR, and I was hesitant about, well, one, I wasn't even brought up to me, but I was hesitant about it because I wanted to have my own thing. And then I was talking to Courtney and Justin about it, just kind of getting a feel for like what you guys do and everything, and having my own like when I learned more about it and realized it could help me with like the nurturing of leads and making the, taking the client from a lead and actually onboarding them and getting them within the program, that could be more streamlined and that could create a lot of extra time for me. I was like, yeah, I could probably use some help in that area. So that's really the driver behind getting on a call.
And so I know you came out to the workshop like pretty immediate, which we can no longer do anymore. We're sold out 90 days in advance, but we had an opportunity and you came in ASAP in the middle of all your travel, which was hectic and crazy. What did you think about the workshop as a whole?
I thought it was great. I loved how each one of you guys really dove into what my bottlenecks were and figuring that out because I had no idea. That was all new to me. So I liked the attention to detail and like the very strategic, like, okay, here's where you're at, here are your bottlenecks, these are the things that you need to focus on in order to get to that next level within your business. Having that like clearly laid out was very helpful. Very helpful. Yeah.
What would you say to the person that they think it's just like a normal event compared to the workshop of what it actually is?
I mean, if you want to really figure out how to get to that next level, you need more one-on-one support and really being there in person and also being able to talk with other people or other coaches who are at different levels than you, right? So it allows for a bigger learning opportunity, not only from you guys, but also from other coaches who you're like, wow, they're, here and I'm here. What are they doing that I'm not doing?
So it sounds like the networking piece was really a big for you. And then also the ability to have like very hands-on one-on-one attention inside your business versus being in a room or a conference to where somebody's speaking on stage, but there's no true one-on-one connection.
Yeah.
We did that. And that was a real big benefit for you because you could get very granular on your specific pain points, problems, or bottlenecks.
Correct.
Cool. Well, that was the goal of every workshop that we do is to do just those things. So I'm glad that we can essentially say that now, even now, 2 months later. So what was your revenue at before we actually signed up?
Average was 15, I believe.
Okay.
15, 18.
And then now let's just say 6 days later, now we're launched and running post workshop. What are you at now?
25, 20, 27, 25 to
27. We got to get you a submitted plaque. I'm going to send you the link after the call.
All right.
How we hang those up?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good. I didn't know that. So I'm glad to hear that. What was your 90-day goal of leaving the workshop?
My 90-day goal was to have a 50K month, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Aggressive. Triple my business in 3 months. Let's go.
Yeah.
I like it. Are you happy or satisfied so far with what you've been able to accomplish in the last 60 days?
Yeah.
From a structure standpoint, income, like what's the biggest win for you? Because money is not always the biggest win, right? It is the greatest byproduct, but what's the biggest win for you as a coach business owner?
Being more confident in the direction that I'm headed. I mean, that's not necessarily like measurable, but having more systems in play, like especially with my team and my coaches and creating more of hey, we're all doing this together. Like we're all working towards building this thing. Yeah. Building the community within my coaching, my coaches themselves. But also I guess on a more of like a quantifiable win would be, and I don't actually know if this is quantifiable, but like being more consistent with my social media and seeing the fruits of that. And it's honestly been a little bit overwhelming because I have been consistent with my posting for the most part, and I'm learning my audience and what my followers gravitate towards and like what I'm how best or like in what areas I am best at speaking on,
Yeah.
or
What
just
type of
how.
content it creates that feels natural for you and or your audience essentially so you're finding your own rhythm and style.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I do think that a lot of people they sleep on that direction piece or clarity. I think is probably the best word to use there on like what to do next inside the business because it's not quantifiable. Like I can't touch it,
yeah,
but it's the peace of mind. It's the less stress. It's the direction. It allows me to sleep at night. It gives me the motivation. So to me, it is like it's the founding piece that allows you to wake up and go, "This is what I need to do today." And then by doing that, those are your quantifiable things. But
right,
the idea of like I wake up and I post and pray, man, that's a really tough place to be in. And we have
yeah,
a lot of coaches that come in with that mentality or mindset. We want to leave with like, okay, I pray and then I post, but they shouldn't have to correlate. Now we
yeah,
have a set structure on what it is we need to do and how to get there to the next level. So
yeah.
I'm excited and glad to hear a lot of that. What would you say to the coach that's doing that 10 to 15K a month about should they sign up with AR? They're on the fence. They don't know if the system is the right play. What would you tell
100% do it. Like, I know it's scary financially because it is a big investment, but the return on the investment, not only like from a number standpoint, but also just the amount of time that you're kind of buying back because you have all of these systems set up. Like, you don't realize how much time you're spending on, onboarding, sending out welcome emails, sending out paperwork, if they even have that paperwork. You don't realize how much time you're spending on that when you could be spending it and on actually programming the client, writing a protocol. And I would say the sooner that you're able to kind of take that risk and invest that money, the quicker you will get to where you want to be. Because a lot of times, like, I was even talking to someone about it the other day who's kind of on the fence because she's like, I'm not there yet. And I'm like, it will help you get there. It will like facilitate, that process. And yeah, I think a lot of times like people don't, like, if they're writing on paid in fulls or they don't have a lot of reoccurring revenue, like, that investment can seem very daunting and very intimidating.
well, awesome. Well, Kendall, man, I want to say thank you so much for coming on today. It was a pleasure. Appreciate you giving your plethora of knowledge around all things functional related, and also too glad to hear that AR has been super helpful and leading to the success of the business. I know it's only been 60 days, and I'm excited to see what the next 6 months looks like for you. And if there's anything we can do to help, you know where to find us. But just want to say thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Absolutely.